Chapter 25 is a really tough one. I also get terrible imposter syndrome all the time. Pretty autumn trees. I've just saved someone's dog. We love supermarket parking. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be working on Project Teacup. I'm working on draft 6 at the moment. It's currently 9:35 a.m. on Tuesday and I will be rewriting and editing chapter 25 today. Every year around this time of the year I tend to make a little trip up to the hills and film a vlog among the autumn leaves. Of course I live in Australia. It's April, which means that it is the autumn time for me. And I haven't done it yet. It's not quite full autumniness here in the city, but if I go drive up to the hills it will be. So that's honestly most of my plan for today. I have a couple of places I would like to go, but it's going to depend on how busy it is, because there's this one specific chocolatier in Stirling where I want to go. Stirling is this really sweet little leafy town up in the hills, and the last time I went there I was working on draft 3 of Project Teacup, I think, so it was ages ago. It was last year, so it would be really nice to pop back there. And then there's a cafe in Aldgate I want to go to that I haven't gone to before, that's been on my list for absolutely ages. I think I'm trying to trick myself with this chapter because chapter 25 is a really tough one. Come on. So I'm like, okay, if I treat myself to my annual leafy autumnal miniature road trip, maybe that will help me get through this more challenging chapter that I need to do. I've just realized that I've spent the whole first bit of this video rambling rather than giving any potential new people context. Hello, my name is Christy. I am a writer. I'm currently working on draft 6 of my adult fantasy novel, which we have been calling Project Teacup, and I have an agent and I'm hopefully going to send it off to publishers at some point. But when I did send it off to agents and I went through the querying process, there was this general consensus that around chapter 25 there was something specific that was not working, and I totally agree with the feedback and it's fine for me to take it out, but it's going to be a bit of a tricky edit where I need to chop down these 2 chapters that were about 6,000 words in total, and I have to take out a really big thing and then kind of mush them together. And I'm excited to do the mushing of these words because I think it's going to be absolutely necessary, but it will be a lot of hard work. But anyway, we're going to head up to the hills. We're going to do some writing today. It's going to be, sorry, I just smacked my phone. It's going to be a very chill, laid back day. I couldn't be bothered doing my hair this morning. I just let it like air dry yesterday. And we're going to do some writing. Wish me luck for chapter 25. It's an intimidating one. So I took the car all the way up to Stirling. It honestly isn't that big of a drive. It's like 20 minutes, but you have to go through a tunnel, but it's absolutely worth it because I love this area of Adelaide. It's so special. If you ever come to Adelaide on a holiday, I so recommend you check out Stirling and the Adelaide Hills. But here I am just getting ready to buckle down and work on chapter 25 of my book. It's such a lovely thing to be able to work outside and to sit around people and, you know, feel the nice, like, lovely breeze. Living in an apartment means that you kind of feel quite cooped up a lot, and so I love to take these opportunities to work outside, especially to sit at cafes. I really love nature imagery. I spend a lot of time like describing trees and foliage and flowers, and it's something that I love to do in my writing, and so trying to be immersed in nature in any way while I'm working feels like a really lovely thing to do. And also cannot remember if I got a hot chocolate or a latte, but it was absolutely delicious. Like, I loved it to bits. I think this place is great and it's a super lovely environment to do my writing in. I saw like 4 or 5 dogs, which was such a joy, but I concentrated really well here. This is the type of writing that I do where I'm trying to get a lot done, but the writing is quite a bit slower. Like, I have to be so careful with the prose to make sure I'm not putting in mistakes, to make sure that the writing isn't clunky. Because I'm trying to get through so much of the story at such a fast pace at the moment, it's a little bit challenging because I'm trying very hard to keep my pace up and do this really difficult work without making mistakes. I was able to work on quite a bit of chapter 25 here. I did do all of my planning beforehand, and so what I did was I went through the 2 chapters that I was like putting together into one chapter. I did dot points of all the important things I needed to keep, like important things for foreshadowing or moving the plot forward, and then I just kind of put them into the chapter below with my notes on what to change, and I sort of went from there. It was like quite taxing work, but I managed to get quite a bit done, and once I was happy with the amount of writing I did at the cafe, I ended up going to Matilda Bookshop, which is a bookshop in Stirling that I love. You guys would have seen it so many times if you have watched many of my other videos. This is the bookshop that actually sold copies of my book A Year in Tokyo, and so I love this bookshop. The staff are lovely. Just, I have so many good things to say, but it's honestly like the loveliest, coziest environment if you're going there during the autumn time. And so whenever I'm in the area, I make sure to go to Matilda Bookshop and just have a look around. I didn't get anything on this day, but it was a joy to go and see it after spending some time sitting outside in the lovely autumn breeze and doing some writing. I'm now doing my annual little hike that I do. I hope you can hear me, it is quite windy. Up through Stirling to this one specific road which gets really pretty. And the reason why I make such a big deal about coming up to the hills and celebrating the autumn leaves is because in Australia our naturally occurring plant life doesn't tend to be deciduous. These are all European trees, they're not native to Australia. And so there's only specific regions where we have a lot of deciduous trees. So to me, pretty autumn trees, all of these leaves, a bit of a novelty. They're not naturally occurring here, and so I find them very beautiful and very, very special. But there's this one road in this area and I can never find it off the first go. I always had to look at Google Maps. This particular road, I've been coming here since I was 17, not for my photography exhibition, but there was a photo shoot thingy I was doing, and so I was going to capture autumn leaves and that was my whole thing. But this road is where I took the banner photo for my YouTube channel, so I'm going to see if I can find it. I think it's down past this roundabout. Hopefully there's some pretty autumn leaves here. I think the Instagram reels I saw lied to me. I don't think we're quite at peak autumn leaves yet, but hopefully it's down this road. Let's go see if we can find it. It's now less windier here, so hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. I found the pretty street and it was easier than last time, I suppose, because it's maybe the fourth or fifth time I've come back here, so every time it's obviously going to get easier. But I love this street, it's so pretty, it's just covered in leaf litter. And I know for some of you who live in places that just look like this wouldn't be that special, but for me as an Australian, it is. It's just so gorgeous. I remember I moved around a lot when I was a kid, but at one of the houses I lived in, there was this one silver birch tree and I worshipped that tree because it was the only deciduous one, because everything else was gum trees. Look at these leaves falling, it's so pretty. Okay, so in a ridiculous turn of events, I've just saved someone's dog. Sorry, I'm puffing because I just ran halfway up this road. There was a person's border collie who'd gotten out, and thankfully the collar had a phone number on it, so I called the phone number on the collar and just reunited the puppy with his owner. Oh, what an eventful day so far. Okay, here is the house, which is my YouTube banner. There we go, there it is. Definitely not peak autumn leaves just yet. I'll have to come back maybe next week or the week after to try and catch the proper in peak autumn leaves. Positives though, made friends with a border collie, reunited that border collie with its owner, had a really big panic through the process of that. And also I wrote about a third of chapter 25, the big scary chapter, which is 6,000 words of draft 5 being mushed down into 3,000 words for this edit. So it was quite a bit of hard work, but I did manage to get a lot done at the chocolatier where I went. So yeah, I'm gonna have a pleasant walk back to my car. I'm going to calm down a little bit after the panic of trying to call that person and reunite their dog, and then I'm gonna go get some lunch. Welcome to my car. I'm sure you can hear me a lot better than outside in the wind. I don't know what I would have done if that woman hadn't have picked up the phone. It's obviously all well and good to have your dog microchipped, but if your dog gets out, there needs to be a phone number on its collar. While I was dialing her, I was just please pick up the phone, please pick up the phone, because I don't actually know what to do if you find a lost dog. And I've had this panic a number of times before. There was this incident where Tyler and I were in Victoria Park, the Eastern Parklands, at basically dusk one night. This was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It must have been before the pandemic, and it was getting dark. Sorry, there's people walking past. I might just stop talking for a second. Don't mind me. Hello. It was getting dark, and so basically the sun had set, and we found this little French bulldog. It mustn't have been much older than a puppy. It must have been like 10 months old, and its fur was really, really dark, so almost impossible to see in the parklands because there's no lights or anything. And we found this little dog and no owner in sight, and so we start like panicking, like trying to find the owner. It's a massive park, and there was no phone number on the collar, and there was nothing we could do. So basically Tyler ended up like waiting with the dog because like there was no leash, so Tyler just kind of had to hold it by the collar, and I was like running around the parklands in the dark trying to find this dog's owner. At like the last minute, I just heard this like heavy breathing in the trees, and it was this older man who must have been in his 70s who looked really stressed and was like power walking, and immediately I was like, it's definitely this guy. And I went up to him and I was like, excuse me, have you lost a dog? And he was like, yes, a French bulldog, and trotted over to where Tyler was with this man. And the poor thing, he was in so much shock. He'd obviously like panicked so much. He told this whole story about how he just got the dog and his wife was never gonna let him walk the dog again. And thank goodness we found that man. The second it's a lost pet, I start panicking. But I'm good now, I'm back in my car. I'm gonna go drive to Aldgate, which is a town basically next to here. There's a cafe that I've been trying to find a reason to go to for about 3 years called Fred Eatery. Hopefully I can get a table there because it's the autumn. It's really, really popular up here. I don't know if they even take reservations, but I have not made one because I'm not organized enough as a human being. So I'm gonna go drive like 5 minutes down the road to Aldgate, see if I can go get lunch at that cafe, and if not, you guys will find out. Is there parking at the front? There most certainly is. No, there's a park around the side. That's gonna be bloody full, isn't it? Is that? Oh, it's a supermarket. We love supermarket parking. Okay, that's where we're gonna go. Foodland. Okay, we're gonna set the map to Foodland.
Head northeast towards Pomona Road.
I managed to find the parking spot that I'd picked out pretty easily, and I went into the cafe Fred Eatery. I've been wanting to go here for ages, as I said, and I didn't realize actually how enormous this place was. I sat up on the second level and had this like really kind of beautiful view over the bottom story, which I thought was really cool. I ended up ordering this like satay chicken type thing, and you'll see it in a second, but it was so very good. I really enjoyed it. So also I would recommend Fred Eatery if you're in this area. And it was really good because I felt like I could comfortably work for a bit. So I buckled down, I got some music going. I did have some like Wi-Fi problems here for a second, and that would have really annoyed me because I always write listening to music, and generally the music is really important. I have found fascinatingly that the music I've been listening to for draft 6 of Project Teacup is entirely different to the same playlist I used for everything up until this point. For some strange reason, I cannot bear the thought of opening up that other music playlist. Like I'm it's not that I'm disgusted by it, I just really don't want to listen to it. And so I've spent so many hundreds, maybe thousands of hours listening to that other playlist. So I've got new music now, it's great, I'm listening to that. But yeah, essentially I just plotted away at chapter 25. Again, it's the type of thing where I'm combining 2 big chapters worth of stuff. I'm getting out anything that I don't need. I'm cutting out unnecessary exposition and just trying to make sure that everything I have here is absolutely essential to the story. I'm really excited to get to the point with this particular draft where I print it all out, have a good reread, double check for pacing. I do think the pacing is going to be a lot better, so I'm really excited to see how that feels to read it the whole way through. Yeah, if there's any plot holes, like if there's something about the world that I now haven't described because I've had to take out exposition or info dumping or anything like that, it's something that I can go ahead and find a way to put back in if I need it. You know, it's that kind of iceberg thing where the author is going to always know so much more about the story than the reader has to know, but it's like there needs to be a logic here. Like there's a whole logic to the time frame and when the flowers and particular trees bloom. I know the climate. I mentioned in my last video that there's such complexity here to the world building, which I love. It's such a joyful thing for me to do all that, like storytelling and world building and stuff. But Yeah, essentially I just worked away on chapter 25. I got a decent chunk of it done, but it was a lot of hard work, so I didn't quite finish the whole of chapter 25 on this day. Hello, it is not the same day. I came home from Stirling that day writing chapter 25, I think is the one I was working on, and I basically got home, buckled down, finished the chapter, did some other stuff, and just kept writing. I've mentioned this before that sometimes when I'm really concentrating on book writing, it makes it a little bit difficult to film vlogs, and the context switching and the juggling of multiple creative things at the same time sometimes is a little bit too much, like especially because like these edits on this draft have been quite challenging, like challenging in a way that's incredibly rewarding, that I'm so happy to be doing. So like, I don't want to sound like I'm whinging. I'm having a great time. It's just really, really tough, this process. And I'm getting the sort of sense that this is the last time I'm going to be making changes this significant to the story. And I obviously don't know that. I have no idea. Like, I don't know if I'm going to submit this to my literary agent and she's going to come back and say like, oh my God, bad choices, go back and change everything. I have no idea. Best case scenario, we get a publishing deal with this book and an editor could turn around and say, oh, change X, Y, and Z. That's part of why I'm so vague with everything, because it's like, it's one thing for me to get attached to one part of the story, but I don't want to get you guys attached to something that's going to then go ahead and change. And I also know that part of what's been challenging with this edit is that I'm doing it in a very, very condensed space of time, again because I have my heart set on getting it finished in April, and just personally a lot of stuff went wrong for me at the beginning of the year and I got sick and then we traveled and all this stuff, and so I had to prioritize my other work and then the book got thrown out. Normal life stuff, like this happens all the time with creative projects, but I'm trying to make up lost time because I really, really wanted draft 6 to be done on a certain time frame, and so now I'm kind of just like working long hours and I'm enjoying it. I'm coming up with solutions that I'm happy with. I really, really like where I've been able to take the characters in this draft. Like there's a particular scene I was working on just after I worked on chapter 25, so it is a few days later as I'm filming this because I forgot to finish this video, where there's some kind of charged dialogue between two characters, and in draft 5 that particular scene was really quite different. Because this character, I'm so sorry I'm being vague, I literally just have no idea how much I should or shouldn't share. This character, their characterization has changed a bit in that we weren't really supposed to like them. So we were supposed to like this character and then not like the character and then like the character again, and the way I had juggled that didn't quite work the way I had intended in terms of like how people receive that character. So I've had to change some things. Anyway, I changed the scene because I changed the characterization. If you change the characterization, they're not going to say the same things anymore. But I'm really quite proud of the dialogue for this scene. Like, as I said, it's very emotionally charged, it's very raw, and to me it feels quite real and authentic, which is what I'm so striving towards with everything I write. Like, I'm absolutely a character reader. I really, really care about characterization. I care about dialogue being like authentic and realistic, and so many parts of that are difficult to achieve. Like, it's one thing to be able to look at dialogue and say like, oh my God, that's bad dialogue, like that sounds cliche, that doesn't sound realistic. But it's a completely other thing to go and try and write it and to write really good dialogue that propels the story forward and has a unique voice and feels like something that someone would say, even though dialogue in a book and in a film is absolutely not how we speak because we need to have brevity. I get asked so much about imposter syndrome and like how to feel better about your writing, how to give yourself the confidence to write even when you don't feel like you're very good at it. And I ended up talking about this in depth in the most recent video I put up on Patreon. So I get so many questions about writing stuff, and sometimes it's not the kind of question I can put into an entire video. And so this last YVN video I put up was kind of like a hybrid of 3 different writing questions. So I talked about imposter syndrome, I talked about motivation, and I talked about like what I've learned from doing draft 6 of Project Teacup. So if you're interested in seeing that video, it's up on Patreon for the Wyvern tier. I also get terrible imposter syndrome all the time, but I've just kind of learned to push through and just pretend I don't have it. But it has been hitting me quite hard in the last sort of few chapters of the book, like in the sort of 60 to 80% of doing draft 6 of this novel. I'm getting such bad imposter syndrome, and I messaged one of my best friends and I was like, maybe I'm bad. And she pointed out that this book got a literary agent, and I've said this to Tyler and he's pointed out the same thing. And it's just funny how our brains work, where, you know, it doesn't matter how like good you actually are at something, if you have a particular kind of brain, it's gonna give you imposter syndrome anyway. But the thing is that despite all of my nerves and all of my desperate hope that this book is good enough, that I've done a good enough job on it, I know deep in my soul that I'm really proud of the changes. I do look at draft 6 and I am happier with it than draft 5. I know the pacing is better, I know the characterization is better, I think the dialogue is better. So I'm really pleased and really proud of it, but I kind of just need to push through. I think one of the wonderful things about being a creative person who's done a few projects, you know, like A Year in Tōkyō and all of the other stuff that I've done, is that I know myself enough to know that these are just the roller coasters of emotions that I feel generally, and just because I feel really nervous about the story and I'm worried about it, and you know, I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it, doesn't mean that it's going badly. It just means that I care a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. I hope you enjoyed getting to see some of the autumniness around Adelaide at the moment. I'm hoping that I can go out and film a little bit more because this is my favorite time of the year. Thank you very, very much for watching this video, and also a massive thank you to everyone over on Patreon for supporting my channel. Of course, I wouldn't be able to do this without the lovely people over on Patreon. We have so much bonus content. I recently... Is that a bug on my hand? What the fuck? There are never bugs in this apartment. What is going on? Anyway, we're reading Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier this month, which is super exciting. If you want bonus content from me, or if you just want to support my work here, please feel free to check out Patreon. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.